Good morning. I'm Lieutenant Scott Spencer with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. We appreciate you coming today to recognize the efforts of the Human Trafficking Alliance Task Force. Today you will hear from Sheriff Wayne Henderson, Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, Lieutenant Mike Landrum with the Organized Crime Unit of the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, Sergeant John Wall with HPD's Human Trafficking Rescue Alliance Task Force, and Tyler Dunman with the Montgomery County District Attorney's Office. We ask that due to the number of speakers and the number of people here, we ask that you save your questions till the end. So at this time, let me introduce Sheriff Wayne Henderson with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Appreciate the opportunity to be able to discuss this worthwhile operation. We're very proud of the results that have come about as a result of Operation Labor, the prostitution sting that was 2 weeks long in the Kingwood, Texas area. I want to say thank you to all of our partners. This is not an operation that's done in a silo. It's a force multiplier operation. So all the agencies that participated in this on the governmental side are the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, the U.S. Department of State, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, the Texas Department of Public Safety, the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission, Montgomery County District Attorney's Office, Montgomery County Precinct 4 Constable's Office, Fort Bend County District Attorney's Office, Harris County Sheriff's Office, and the Houston Police Department. And of course, we couldn't do this also without our non-governmental partners that make all this possible. That would be Deliver Fund, The Landing, Love People, Not Pixels, and Freedom Restore. We approach these operations in an attempt to save those that are victims of human trafficking, but we also look at the demand side of it too. So we approach it from many different angles and have different methodologies by which we go about this. So as a result of the operation, there were a total of 79 people arrested. 37 of those were men that were charged with prostitution. One man was charged with felony promotion of prostitution. 34 females were charged with prostitution. 6 female victims were identified, including a 16-year-old, and 8 additional arrests were made for different offenses. What we see a lot of time in these operations that there are offenses that come along with it, such as drugs and guns. So the main mission of this is always going to be to rescue, but we also identify other criminal elements in which these offenses are prosecuted. So I'm very proud to be a participant with HTRA and look forward to many more operations with successful outcomes such as this one. Thank you.
My name is Michael Landrum. I'm a lieutenant with the Sheriff's Office Organized Crime Unit, and I had the pleasure of working this operation on the management side. It was 2 weeks of long hours and hard work by, obviously, as previously mentioned, a lot of agencies. I want to recognize those agencies, both local, state, and federal officers and the non-government organizations for their hard work and professional approach to investigating human trafficking. The men and women who completed this operation showed their dedication and personal desire to help women and educate the men on how their actions are affecting our community. And I want to honor those men and women with the law enforcement agencies for their display of professionalism. Thank you.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Sergeant John Wall with the Houston Police Department Vice Division Human Trafficking Unit. I also oversee the Human Trafficking Rescue Alliance of the Southern District of Texas. It's a task force that's composed of 22 local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies, state and federal prosecutors, and victim service organizations with the main goal to identify victims of human trafficking, conduct proactive victim-centered investigations, and provide the victims that we recover with a comprehensive array of services. While Operation Labor focused on the identification and recovery of victims and the arrest of those responsible, it also targeted the buyers of illicit sex with the purposes of deterring those individuals, because we know that many of those that are advertised on illicit websites are victims. Through conducting numerous task force operations and investigations, we have discovered that human trafficking affects women, children, and sometimes men who are both from the United States and abroad. Time and time again, we see that traffickers exploit the vulnerabilities that individuals face by offering them promises of a better life, a feeling of belonging, a better income, or a chance for new opportunities. While these claims appear to be legitimate at first, all too often they become prey for the ones who exploit. During these covert operations, we've also found victims not only locally, but from across the state of Texas. They come from affluent cities as well as small towns, and they're from all ages, genders, and ethnic backgrounds. The criminals perpetrating these crimes also come from all walks of life, and they not only do they exploit human beings, many times, as Sheriff Henderson mentioned, they're involved in drugs and weapons trafficking. The Human Trafficking Rescue Alliance is very proud of our committed partnership with Montgomery County Sheriff's Office and the Montgomery County District Attorney's Office, and we look forward to participating in future operations. I want to thank Sheriff Henderson for his support, along with each member of the task force, and whose dedication and commitment has made this operation a success. Excuse me. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Tyler Dunman with the Montgomery County District Attorney's Office, and it's amazing to see the effort that's gone into this particular operation. And I just want to commend the sheriff and his team and HPD and all these other agencies for the work that they put into this. It's behind the scenes work that no one ever sees, but I see it, and the District Attorney Brett Ligon sees it, and we understand the amount of work that goes into this type of operation. And I want to speak specifically to the buyers. Montgomery County has a reputation and will continue to generate a reputation for being extremely tough on people who want to buy sex in Montgomery County. That's the message that needs to be heard today. We were able to rescue a number of women and one juvenile in this operation, and that makes it all worth it. And we also are looking to prosecute the buyers. Montgomery County is not a place to buy sex. And we're going to catch you if you attempt to do that. These operations will continue. The sheriff is committed to that, as well as these other agencies, which the citizens of Montgomery County should be very happy about the work that's going into this. But if you're going to attempt to buy sex in Montgomery County, you're going to be caught, and we're going to prosecute you to the fullest extent. You will walk away with a conviction in Montgomery County if you attempt to buy sex, and you'll lose your job. Whatever other consequences come from that will be based on the decision that you made in attempting to do that. So it's extremely important that buyers understand that this is not the place to do this, and we will catch you. It's an honor for the DA's office, for Brett Ligon and our office to be a part of this work that's being done. It's amazing work. It's important work. Our community is starting to understand that this is happening here in Montgomery County. And we're looking to expand our awareness and education, making sure that our citizens are equipped to help us fight this on the front lines. Thank you very much.
This time I'd like, go ahead, all of our partners to come up and stand up here with us, please, if you don't mind. Well, this time we'll take questions, any questions you may have. Please indicate who your question is directed at for prior to asking. As you can see in front of you, you have a list of everyone that is here, so that would help if you had a specific question that could be addressed by someone. But this time we'll take a question. Anybody?
This is for anybody, but why focusing on the Kingwood area specifically? Did you have an idea or a tip that there was a concentrated activity in that location?
Sergeant Wall.
Yeah, so from our experience in conducting these operations, we know that human trafficking is occurring all across the city. And as I mentioned before, not only in small towns, but really in every, there's no area that is immune to human trafficking. And so we look at all areas in and around Houston, and sometimes because we do that, that leads us to bigger investigations. And so that is our goal, is to uncover as many victims as possible, arrest the perpetrators, and then provide services to those that we recover.
Does anyone else want to? Any other questions?
Were these like being perpetrated online, or how were these, victims being trafficked?
As far as how we conduct the investigations, we really don't want to discuss that information. The information comes to us from multiple sources, and to be honest, revealing our methodology isn't something that we can do at this point.
Were these purchases, I know that this operation was over, I think you said a 2-week span. Were all of these purchases conducted within that 2-week span, or were there other previous purchases that were part of this sting that were maybe like previously transacted?
No, this was all in that 2-week period.
A follow-up question, is 79 arrests, I mean, particularly for the buyers, is the number of buyers, how does that compare to other operations or stings you guys have done in the past?
I would say it's consistent. Yes.
This is for Tyler Dunman. You said that you wanted to equip citizens. Could you kind of get into detail about that a little?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, there are a number of organizations, some of the NGOs mentioned today that are in this area that are working to educate the community on what human trafficking looks like, how to identify it, and what to do with information that you have in the citizens. As these law enforcement officers will tell you, oftentimes we generate cases, even outside of operations like this, generate leads and cases based on community engagement. And we've been very successful when the community comes forward with information. And so there are a number of organizations that do that. We actually have a coalition here in Montgomery County. We have an event coming up on October 10th where over 35 of those organizations will be attending, and the citizens can come and engage with those groups. And it's just good to understand best practices and what actually is occurring and how you can engage to be a part of the solution in Montgomery County in this region.
All right, are there any other questions? Any member of the panel?
I guess to be kind of clear, was this like a ring of people, or were these separate individuals who were kind of like trafficking? How many people were actually like connected into the trafficking? If that makes sense.
The vast majority of these individuals were exactly that. They were individuals that arrived. There were a few of the men and women that either arrived together or at the same time.
Mike, what about, you got, so bring them all to Houston, I mean, they weren't all in the Houston area. I'm saying Miami, Florida, and Nevada, and stuff like that. What was the draw to get them in here?
You have to understand that these victims are not, they don't have a home base. They move around from town to town, or they're moved around from town to town on a regular basis to avoid rescue. So a lot of their home addresses are listed for where they originally lived. But now as they move from city to city, they just happen to be in our area.
Any other questions? I think.
Can you just explain a little bit more about, I mean, I know that you can't really go into the methodology specifically, but can you kind of explain what exactly you were looking for, or like how you arrived at this general operation? I know that the details you don't want to reveal, but is there any way to kind of explain a little bit more about how this came about?
So the Human Trafficking Rescue Alliance, HTRA, part of what we do as a member of the task force is conduct these operations throughout the greater Houston area. As far as why, how we developed it, and the information that leads us there is we know it's taking place, and we move from one area to another and work with the nonprofit organizations and non-government organizations that feed us information, and we attack the trafficking issue based on what area is available at that time.
For the victims, you said there were 6 of them, including a 16-year-old girl. Is it clear if all of these people who were arrested were in touch with the same victims, or is there, I'm unclear on how that worked, and then there were other females that were arrested as well. Can you explain that?
So once the females are arrested, they're interviewed, and during the course of that interview, those 6 women gave us information about how they were being trafficked. So they weren't, the men and women weren't in contact with each other. It was strictly by other means.
If I could just say one last thing to reiterate a couple of points. One of the main reasons we do these proactive operations is that we know from experience that victims don't come forward. They've been brainwashed, they've been threatened, they've been physically abused, and so without all of our partners and bringing in all the resources and going out there, the more we look, the more we find. And so we want to continue these type of operations because that's the only way that we're going to rescue these people from human slavery. And as far as the investigations go, a lot of times when we do these operations and we start conducting interviews, that leads us to other victims, it leads us to other perpetrators, and it leads us to bigger human trafficking organizations.
This time after the press conference, the members of the task force that assisted in this operation will be available for you guys to talk if you have additional questions for them at that time. That's it. We appreciate you guys coming out and supporting us. Thank you.